So demon de ho she bon ju de chen bon ju bon de Kalo ju la na me bo la do me no je dong bo sang je jong de Bie jiao wo xiao jiao du bo la xiang zi lo chu do jiao zun xie wo gang zi gang Zo wo chu dang zi sa jian de na gong bo de bo Ma nian ji dian de na zhu jie zong de cai kia bo chu la xiang Na do gong a chu du zu zang wo yi xi jiang zuo si jian ren bo 这波就电送那啷个我公布求你叫了相子，成就电波正面大学叫三多找我求了相子，留着见着四波送我去，两面亲近求了相子，公布突厥接电波，当起前边电波，三那有电叫做些地线线了相子。 大边的cha着我就给别给送那种，基督的道就这么是这就那上次，这年这月那样的老爸那那着的，先给当爸一点点给的那样上次。 对吧？这样没要紧，给我别送错吧。让给三年用说的，天天上街的吧。刚我这的嘛没到，就嘛是我去吧。没让落到真的不，都先就难得到。 三难的月当前日么也，过往当年坚决着的。 噶当当当，七月老周，随便说来着我说。
Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Ultra Creek Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of the lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure, they neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight, and so on, until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so on, up to no old age and death, and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path. No wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, in Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who fell in the 3 times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom. They become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, the mantra which calms all suffering, should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasam Gate Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. And the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, noble Avalokiteshvara, that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
Dozo la buje doze yon la chuje yang de song. Doda che do nye mo nye long le che jia do zhu zi ji. Ma re min se dong ye nyong gu ji ye jun zi re zhu nong. De ne da je sa je da zi ye de ne zo jia se du yue gu. 就着就当就念就知大律面色将被养了的阿拉巴扎那的阿拉巴扎那的阿拉巴扎那的这点就这切了有这 Dalu demo me bara se ne kada de je lo do ba yi lo je bo be no zo do so ya so je do je sho je ye me ya do cho ye re 边中中别波动阿的想，娘嘞心罗居罗所我的，上波同灭也念当着的，觉得对月的当着别别，这造故萨的念所念嘛，了知识别居罗所我的，了有玉面修结了着当。大文着波这边可就见，上界可就跑跑要在说，三摩大业见了所问的，西周当边长阿的想，高当天边面波中的见，念就当就过去说了说。高当那么那了所问的，刚见心的自己中国梦，我到这边我修接受见，当我点边到不开主见，要是举报见了所问的，就算跟的那么多结强。刚老刚的些年最中年，秋冬天梦我住走在边，这些老么那老所望的，让家所到跟了大爷面，给上淘宝这边就我就，在这边淘开在包夜。三界先年当了所我的，借我更多要到那么当，人面去见变了龙世间，撒当浪就一点照作年，我就讲给我热头热三界就当出去就能了。想就不多当年就做见，大概千年级别是去级别所能见，多了平息三界诸波修三界就，所见就能了，想就不多当年就做。大概千年级别所能见，多了平息三界诸波修三界就。所见就能了，想就不多，多年就算。大概去级别所能见，若了平息三界诸波修。哎呀，哎呀。哎呀，当然是对了啊。当然是，当然对吧？大姐呢，两大其实今天把的是老人的没这么多，让人对吧？主要讲到了，那我就点点的，那几但对光切把的现在这个多。你们口多？
那等下谁会出毛事？就对谁人家送给？
当然是点点的，让人对吧？大姐呢，让人点点就是了，来把的是老人呢，今天的话是。
So it is worthwhile to say that we are here together to fulfill our ultimate wish.
他说说对比天的卡尔现在对比天的俺对的话也是的，真的，他没让清楚了，说说现在上的他我说的说起不是清楚了有的了哇。
So what is our wish? Our wish is to become happy and overcome suffering. This is not only a human being, but entire sentient beings, including insects. Even down to the insects have a similar wish to achieve happiness and overcome suffering. Even in our dream, we wish to achieve happiness and overcome suffering.
다원나 소소게 되빈 가리 대화 용비는 제거를 해서나 아니 쉬유즈보 데이터라 아니 가서게 소소내서 잠블링이 차되어 다 쉬유즈보게 데이터 정정은 배딩에 땡키버도 지로 다 용다로.
So when you look at ourselves as sentient beings who have taken rebirth in this planet Earth as a human being, and all are considered sentient beings, but when it is a common wish of all of us. The common wish of all of us is to achieve happiness and overcome suffering, which normally, when speaking about achieving happiness, and we are referring our happiness with regard to our physical comforts or the happiness with regard to body.
Dendriki dewa dhuta te nga tsu shoki khala zo ne gonda padu khala zo yang nye yang sanyi chiba chijan che de chi ma tu tube dwe chi mi dwa.
So with this kind of wish to achieve happiness and overcome suffering, right? We have been exerting a lot of effort to achieve happiness, mere physical happiness. We do a lot of things right from the beginning of our day in the morning, all the way until you retire at night. We're engaged in some kind of activities which, hoping for happiness as a result of our activities.
Ona da nga su ge ne de sa je nong me wa ina ta ka re che gu du se we de ne nga su bi ne da de la ne lu je de wa da sen je de wa ni ne she ba de la on she ko de ro yin je de yi je she ba ko ro yin de ni je na ne zo sen ge de wa ju da de no ye ne zo nga su jang de ro de on she ko de zo ro yin za ne de me je wa je ne yi she ko de zo ro tu ye ne be sa ka re che gu du se de da jwa ni ba de da.
So now we're speaking about, happiness. There are primarily of two kinds of happiness, the physical happiness and the mental happiness. So when it comes to the mental happiness, there are primarily again divided into two, the mental happiness of the sense consciousness and mental happiness of the mental happiness, mental consciousness. So now, at this particular point, we should ask a question to ourselves. What kind of happiness that we want to achieve? What kind of happiness is that happiness that we are actually wishing to achieve? So we should answer to this question by saying that not just following our sense consciousness, but rather we are wishing to achieve happiness of mental consciousness.
Dendriki chowa de la len jaba senere dendriki ni doba tiki dene de juba la ni ta nga so ki zambilin de gon la tanda ki ko so ba de la ni tomba tu byang bo lo ni dong nga ja son shan ju ge ni de le ha yi thoni chi tanda pa le bene zene ma ne yo so ne ji ni zan ne dendriki chiba chen chi la ne nga so de ko so ba chen che de yang so su mo ne ga yo ba.
So now in order to achieve such a happiness, which is the mental happiness. In other words, mental, everlasting happiness or ultimate happiness. It cannot be achieved by any means. There's no other means that we could achieve this state of happiness, but to following the teachings of the Buddha, the teaching that Buddha has given more than 2,500 years ago. So therefore, our purpose of being here to fulfill our wish is to achieve that level of happiness and happiness. So therefore, we're looking for a means or the skillful means which provide us this level of happiness.
Dendriki dewa dhuta de rani chi ko ma yin ba ta ye bi sanje tangji den de dewa dhuta je le sha as. Dendriki dewa dhuta ge ni ta jung de la ge ngone che dan den ba ji chen che ge yin se de che bi che de ne ma zo ne rang ge den je le den ba tu byang ba ji mi ba che ne rang ge ta ko de ne rang da rang nya ge ne dong ge chen je sanje mi ba che ne ji je dan de ba ni je ne ka se je ge so so ge san ba le gyu jo dang tu ye ge dang da la ne ka ma ni so ji mi ba che yin da.
So now, wishing to achieve happiness here, we are not only wishing to achieve happiness for our own self, but wishing for happiness of all sentient beings, all beings without exceptions. So it is therefore we are here to, here to receive authentic teachings of how to cultivate such level of motivations to wishing to be able to cultivate a pure wish for wishing for happiness of all other sentient beings. So for that, let's cultivate our appropriate motivation by visualizing Buddha Shakyamuni in front of oneself or before oneself at the level of one's forehead, surrounded by all those lineage gurus of the Lam Rim, and cultivate a very strong faith from the depth of one's heart, and then imagining that being yourself in their presence and surrounded by entire sentient beings and having a great compassion or the pure compassion towards all other sentient beings. So therefore, let's take a couple of minutes to meditate on that by generating faith towards the object of refuge and extending compassion towards all other beings. So with this, motivations, cultivating of appropriate motivations, the teachings that we are receiving today is the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment. It's such a precious teaching that we are receiving. We have a saying in Tibetan that when someone is, propounding the teachings of Lam Rim Chenmo or the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment, it says that entire teachings of the Buddha and Bodhisattvas of this world will shiver.
되지. 되지. 아니 되게 쳐대 저희가 같은 로에다 저희 사지 이제 아니 주고 쯤바 땜비신 제법이 쳐와서되네. 되제네. 아니 소소기다. 현재 된세사나래 랑게 라마네 또 투비한 뭐 진짜 저희는 뭐지 라마나제 네 나타다 네 됐을매비 대바데 되지는 거를 배 개쳐버려도 받쳐져야 돼.
So here now, as usual, I will be going through this 4 major outlines, beginning from the greatness of the authors given in order to show that the teachings has an immaculate source. So with these headings, what is required for us when we read through this heading, it enables us to recall our practice of reliance upon an authentic teacher. In other words, the Guru Yoga, the practice of the Guru Yoga, and having a faith to one's spiritual teacher, all the way to the lineage gurus, trace all the way back to the teaching of Buddha himself.
Ngazolama ge shenye se de chi ke le me yenge chi de thul de nge ke cha ke marwa rang la chi ka ka ne kang wa tem ba ne zo de rang la chun de yenge la ma ne zo de ani ke du ni de chi bu tam ba khang yi ba te la ni de bi de ro chi re ma do ya nga so de de so zam le la ma chen ne da chen bo le se de ri ke than ni se ke marwa.
When we are talking about having a faith in our teacher, the spiritual teacher, we're not merely talking about the teacher who is very famous and renowned, and who is giving the teachings, being on the high thrones and so forth. But rather, whomever we have a spiritual connection, from whom you have received the teachings, from the initial teachings, all the way to the complete teachings and so forth. So you think about all those beings who have given us the teachings, and whoever you have a spiritual, either directly or indirectly, the connection that you have. So you think about all those teachers and cultivate faith.
다 사제님과 당할 기바체비시 추지 쳐와데 셰발라에네 소소기 정대텔로 로저지데 되게 제작 가르 템바 데지 셰와에네 아니 정대라 가보체 진제다 정대라 기바체 지지로와.
So then the next is what is it, that the greatness of the Dharma given to increase one's faith in instructions. So you develop irreversible faith in these teachings by going through this study. It's only if you study and understand the subject matter of this particular text will enable you to cultivate a strong faith or irreversible faith.
되게 단지 세대들에 상종라를 전문으로지 찾아와야 소나 아니 이거네 단지 녀라나 이게 아니 저보다 감각 규제 동안 세야나 양아가 저기지 멤버 제다에나 가서 취했을 담비 취대 가르래 취 맹어대로와 내사 지역이 맹어대기 민중으로 지대 다른 가서 천년 되지 정도서 아니 로조 지역이 매지 대지 정도로 지로와 다 다다 멤버 제다 지역 가서 매대 가서 사샤네 리고 됐던 말와 라니 랑이 담배바이 또 나눠져 쟤네 아니 강전도 또 바라지를 쟤네만도 팬도 도도 통시할 게요 말와 대체리 빼면서 개첨을 와.
So it is important to understand when we are receiving the teachings of Dharma, such as this particular teachings, the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment. So this is the teaching or the studies of the Dharma is actual medicine for the alleviation of one's sickness. Right? It is not someone like our regular physician who prescribed prescriptions, and you go to the medical store and then buy the medicines and then eat it yourself. This is not how we do here, but rather we are prescribing ourselves and and we understand what kind of medicine that is needed for us to be able to evaluate our negative thoughts and emotions by receiving such teachings, and then prescribe yourself and get the medicine yourself and take the medicine.
ne saje so ba dangal ka sa chawani da de chula ne se chata shagi se de ge chambo karisa na ngaso yente monje sawa de sen yete na bacha se to je se de sen je yente sen de khatu ji len sha so de ma yin ba ne gombe wang ge dogo ya bacha wang ge dogo ya de shu yin sa de ne ko gyolong ge to na la ya 진짜 맞아. 팀원의 제정 소리지 대리시나 대리류 소리지 맞아와지. 근데 저와 내내 저와 차를 타체도 아니 예때데 라지라 갈래갈래 제교지 전에 교로 지어봐다 아니 대달라 공시 때에 갈래 본디 제교에서 이때 빼미스게 참고 아버도 대리게 초도데 초된지는 시고 고마서 초문도세 개체때 매바체. 아니 고 그때 잘라를 마서는 배대 물에 싸네 대대 체지로. 그래서 교로 지어서 때 가서 카톡 고아를 전에 좀 도와.
So then when we go through this, the third headings or the outlines, the great way to teach and listen to the Dharma with these two greatness, which is again very, very important. With this headlines, what this headline actually emphasizes is it emphasizes importance of, implanting imprints, the positive imprints within one's continuum or within one's state of being. And because when speaking about the mental quality or the spiritual quality, it's very much based on, it's need to be developed very much based upon the imprints that you have accumulated, imprints that you have planted in previously. So therefore, whenever we talk about receiving the teachings or engaging in practice, prior to one's practice or receiving the teachings, we are always asked to cultivate appropriate motivations. So when speaking about appropriate motivation, it is not a motivation that you need to cultivate at the particular time of receiving teaching itself, but this appropriate motivation will serve as imprints for a further development of your spiritual realizations. And not only that, this will become an imprint for spiritual growth for this particular life, but also from life after life. The imprints will remain life after life. So therefore, cultivating motivation, appropriate motivations, is not only just for the particular time, at this particular time, but also it serves as a basis upon which all the spiritual developments will take place. So then there's a fourth outlines, that is the actual subject matter, the outline of actual subject matter of this text. That is what we call the sequence in which the disciples are to be taught, the actual instructions. So this has two subdivisions or the subheadings, in other words, of relying upon the spiritual teacher is the path or the root of one's goodness, and having relied upon the teacher, how to train one's mind accordingly.
다니볼린 증거들라 소모지 지부 중에도 팀원이 나제를 만냥설렌지 지부 전도 팀원이 나제를 만냥설렌지 지부 챔피언 나제를 만냥설렌지 예제 다 동본이 지자 다 지부 챔피언 나제를 만냥설렌지들은 자유사지 소모지 태전은 지부 고담바 센제 코나덴바 센데 제다 지비 수 센제는 셔발라 로지제 다 되는 동본지자 다 센데 제다 집에 취달라 네 지지 저 강라 때네 저와 센제 장미를 봐네 센제 집에 네 초가정 네 가족에 네 다다 사지 봐 네 센제 초가정 Senji Pena, Jubun Chungi da Timoyana Jerimba, Jubun Jin da Timoyana Jerimba, Lo Jambine, and the Shanchu sent the Rangila Jay, Chajan and Zambi, Gojila, and the Shanchu sent the Damba de Lenko, and got this answer the Ledo.
So we are on the chapter, the ritual for adopting the spirit of enlightenment. So we have gone through the receiving of the teachings of the stages of the path for the person of medium capacity and the small capacities. So having gone through those two teachings, having received those two teachings, now we are on the stages of the path for the person of great capacities of this particular, in this particular context, receiving the teachings of the Bodhicitta. And at this particular time, having received the teachings, now it is time for us to how to generate Bodhicitta by practicing. In order to do that, we need to receive the Bodhisattva's precepts. So therefore, we are on the chapter, the ritual for the adopting the spirit of enlightenment. So whatever the precept that you may have received, there are three things that are common to all of them. It's receiving the precepts. If you haven't received the precepts and you can take an initiative of receiving the precepts, and you have received the precepts, if one's precepts, that whatever the precept that you have received is undergone declination or the degenerations, and you need to take another precepts for the restoring and revitalizing the teachings that have undergone degenerations. And that precept that you have received, and if it is intact and haven't gone through any degenerations, you can further, enhance the precept that you have received earlier. So those are the three things that are common to receiving all those precepts.
다 동부 마토버 토버시비 토데에는 가축이 남바들 렘발로 남바 렌사기 유지거로와 남바 렌스 유텔라 에네 당가서 샹추 생코로 카투시나 샹추 산라 네 샹추 생게 남바 렌사텔라 아니 토마 에네 게이셴이 좀 게이셴이텔라 에네 센지기 남바다 뎀비토 렌사기 유지라 에네 샹추 생게 남바들 렌거레세 이정가서 배샤 마타나 소소 셰거지.
So now when it comes to receiving of the vows or the precepts of the bodhicitta, so the bodhisattva, precepts of the bodhisattva, here first it begins from identifying the person before whom you adopt the spirit of enlightenment, the person from whom you receive the precepts of bodhisattvas. So therefore, here now, when person from whom you receive the bodhisattva's precept is the preceptor must possess the bodhisattva's vow and kept the bodhisattva's vow without undergoing degenerations. This is a requirement for the preceptors from whom you are receiving the precepts of the bodhisattva.
다 담바 렌사 telete 당가니 뭐고 전에하게 되면서 다 담바 렌게 강사 가청 나오지 렌게 tel라 차chen 가르거스나 아니 주부 충에다 주부 충정게 팀모에 라라 로자네 아니 지 베제 상추생 라지를 베데 지 추초라고 지기 차chen 잠비 거지라 아니 상추생게 담바 렌게 강사라니래 차chen 참고에 대한 시고도.
So then also there's also another important part is that for one to understand is when it is time for one to receive the bodhisattva's precepts. And as we spoke about earlier, that making sure that prior to receiving one's bodhisattva's precepts, one must undergo the practice of the stages, the stages of the path for the person of middle capacity and the small capacities. Having, having perfected or having gone through those practices, one is then is a time to receive. It is an appropriate time for one to receive the bodhisattva's precepts.
니 계시 소소게 이제 알레 다치 오도 되고 쳐봐도 다만 초카데 간데레스나 다 초카는 레서네 더 견자 이번에 에세데 나 로윈다 예 최대 다다라스
라스
네 이번에 되는 되는 라마라 템비 디시 자고바 송베 산제스 멤버라 멤버라 샤라 샤체데 여다 면제 피라 비모예비롱아 살라 주데 티모자데 샹추지 센제던도 소아도바 소아도보 손도아.
So the manner of taking or receiving the precepts. So here it begins. Let's read through the text, which is page 65. I think it is third paragraph, I guess. Supplication and going for refuge. Did you all get it? So I'll read through the text, okay? Since, so supplications and going for refuge. Since it is said that you should have the idea that your guru is the teacher or the Buddha, bow down to your guru while believing that he or he is the Buddha, and then offer a mandala and other material offerings with your right knee bent to the ground and join your hands respectfully and make a supplication for the spirit of enlightenment, reciting the following 3 times.
대체 다 맞추기 거스보 가르쳐 버서 맞추 상추 생기 남바 노로세나 라마를 쉬고라 예자리 동거 상추 생기 남바 노로 지세 소아데 비치되지 아니 소아 대사소나 아니 동복이 저런 상추 생기 남바 쉬어발라 동복 정도게 남바 코도 로고레서네 디제 따라들라 아니 정도 남발해야 되고도 동거 상추 생기 소아데 되지.
So now here at this point we are reciting the verse of supplications. We're supplicating to the guru from whom you are receiving, or guru who is bestowing these precepts, or bodhisattva's precepts. And then, so in order to receive the bodhisattva's vow, receiving that refuge vow, Kyamde Domba, or the refuge vow, is a prerequisite. So therefore, we must first receive the refuge vow. Then this will then be followed by the receiving of the bodhisattva's vow.
다 동복의 상추 생기 남발에 치들이다. 상추 생기 맞아도 소데 소 말아 상추 생기 남발 노로 지서 소데 치드.
Now we were reciting this supplication verse, which is supplicating to the guru to grant us the precepts of the bodhisattva.
제당하지 대제시바 자자마 양다바 조비 상제나다 상추 삼바 상추 삼바 첨보 사첨보라 슈바나제 동보 라나메바 양다바 조비 상추도 투제바 대전도 다 미데 시제베 시제와 양 로베제 라나메바 양다바 조비 상추도 세제도 소시에连送的저连送的바도 저도送的.
So following supplication must be recited 3 times. It's a supplication verse, supplicating to the guru. So let's read through this the supplication verse together. Just as the former perfect Buddhas, who are Tathagatas and Arhats, and the great bodhisattvas on the high levels, initially generated the spirit of unexalted, perfect enlightenment. Please, O Master, help me. And when you hear over here, you should say your name. So you should say your name, and to generate the spirit of unexalted, perfect enlightenment. So Rinpoche say 1 time is okay.
마도 문에 가서 거기서 봐 다른 상주생 담발에 작은 말이 가서 나한테 너를 지금 신로 차서 열어 마도 문에 저는 얘들 가서 막 총하는 되기도다 근데 신로 얘들 강가 놓은데 터는데 야보를 성으로 하게.
So it is not actually a receiving precepts. We are Rinpoche say that he's going through the reading of the text in this particular context. It's because to give you the oral transmission, so he will read through that. We don't have to repeat 3 times.
대체 봐도 저도 어째 Deta Jandoki Dabatereda, Dede Jando Chibachin Shadesa, Deta Joy Sanji Jande Detan, Te Chu, Techen Gopa Zo Shibi, Lanji Debatan, Gundi Shumadobi, Shanchu Shansen Papa La, Ti Dene Zonde, Shisi Shanju Jimbi Chichipado, Shanchu, Mare Sanje Tanji, Jobi Shir, Sanjela Joseph Chio Chu, Doa. 结果上去了就是上去了就等把当去了就研究了就主笔打住学两笔300几单700多郎中的什么都比3大给写送呗这大笔300来对堂节都没多把下午两笔对把这不写了想让看写把当这位就是说下的送多呢就用这个简单说的这多
没错 Okay, I will be reading through the text now. Next, perform a practice of going for refuge that is specific to this context. The object of this refuge are the Bhagavan Buddhas, the teachings that is the truth of the path, which emphasizes the Mahayana cessations, and the community of the noble bodhisattvas, who are irreversible in general. Think about them as follows. From now until I reach the heart of enlightenment, and for the sake of protecting all beings, please Buddhas be my teachers of refuge. Please teachings be my actual refuge, and please community be the ones who assist me to attain refuge. Then make a special thought. Since the lamp for the path of enlightenment, Bodhipada Pradipa says, with the irreversible thoughts, make a strong aspirations. I will never turn away from such a way of thinking about refuge, and go for refuge with the postures like explained above, one knee on the ground and hand joined, and recite the following 3 times, says again.
다들 뒷바로 이게 가르치고 와서 저리 담바 렘발라 얘네 조선조서 유대 간르지 거래 얘네 조전 로덕이 삼바대 간르지 거래 세대 카토시나 태천지 예바도 태천이 장로 거래라.
So at this point we were talking about the person before whom you received this bodhisattva's precepts, and what kind of motivation that one need to cultivate while receiving the bodhisattva's precepts. So here, when it was speaking about cultivating motivations, is one's motivation must be cultivated in conjunction with taking refuge in 3 jewels in accordance with Mahayana vehicle.
그렇지. 내가 저기 대제하고 그러 라니 상지 저주바다 선제 통치 저주바니 게냐 대체의 테메세나리 되게 치바데 데로와데 맞소 시그로 알아다 저유들이야 대체의 법이 게도 건조선은 게도 건조 통치로 말해
we are all familiar with when taking refuge in 3 jewels, and there are two different ways in which we take refuge in 3 jewels, right? One is we take refuge in 3 jewels for the benefit of all sentient beings. And there's another way of taking refuge in 3 jewels. I take refuge in 3 jewels. I take refuge in 3 jewels for the benefit of my own self. So there are 2. Out of the 2, former needs to be adopted for us as a follower of the Mahayana tradition.
저게 미 코로나 시에는 주부 총회 걸어 저와시망에 솔로면로 저지 근데 될래야 가서 주부 제 걸어서 손아 아니 거의 동행을 줘야 아니 다다 대책이 정도잖아 선제 타지니 거의 동행 타달래 접이 된다라 세대니 되게 전에 맞 주부 속에 장도되라 여와제 동대 예바데 시고로.
So it is also essential for us to understand that the way we take refuge in 3 jewels, there are 3 different ways of taking refuge in 3 jewels. The taking refuge in 3 jewels, the 3 jewels in accordance with the stages of the path for the person of small capacity, middle capacity, and great capacities, right? So when it comes to, with regard to the small capacities, we take refuge in rituals to, supplicating to the rituals to protect oneself from taking rebirth in the lower realms. And then middling capacities, taking refuge in accordance with the middling capacities, we take refuge in rituals to free ourselves from samsaric existence or the samsara. And then with regard to regarding taking refuge in rituals in accordance with the stages for the path for the person of great capacities, we not only just free oneself from the cyclic existence, but taking refuge in rituals to gain complete state of enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. In other words, having a genuine wish to establishing entire sentient beings without exception to the state of complete enlightenment. So now let's read through the text. So as Rinpoche has mentioned earlier, that is, we're receiving this in the form of oral transmission. Oh Master, please listen to me and say your name in between. From now until I reach the heart of enlightenment, go for refuge to the Bhagavan Buddhas, supreme among beings. Next it says, oh Master, please listen to me. Again say your name. And from now until I reach the heart of enlightenment, go for refuge to the best of teachings, the teachings of the peace free from attachment. Third, it says, oh my Master, please listen to me. Then say your name again. From now until I reach the heart of enlightenment, go for refuge to the best of assemblies, the members of the community of noble bodhisattvas who are irreversible.
That's there again, Karsa. And so teaching you John in do so tiring way. John Jenda does a match you see Shanchu Mato about again, and it just joking singing to your money. Tanda della music Tanchilla me but do so Shanchu Jimbola Mato Jipato any Joju said, but the shoot you out the judge.
So here, if you look at this, the way we are taking refuge in this particular context, it is more profound and vast. Right, so there are the refuge. When we say you will find that I take refuge in three jewels. I go for refuge in three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha only. But when it comes to this particular context, at this point, the way we take refuge in three jewels, it says I go for refuge in three jewels until I am enlightened for the benefit of all other sentient beings. It is more profound and vast.
Let's so Jodoche. Control really Jandola Gonsu Retan, Church Jandu Cijenda Midrayan, Jude Chokajan, no, Sodo. And then Joseph Sonia Hojane, Sodo.
So then here it says, even though there is a request for consideration at each refuge, in each of the three jewels, and an unusual wrongdoing for going for refuge in the teachings. I've written this ritual, I've written the ritual exactly as Atisha composed it.
The Jandu number Jenda Ling to Sola Joson Rigi Sansana Gonsur May in Sarwa, that the Georgie is Somba Najin Riba in Sondoa.
So here it says, it says, there's
and
also, there is a request for the consideration at each refuge, it says, right? In each of the three jewels, and an unusual, wording for going for refuge. in the teachings. So that he's here, Amatonga was mentioning that he has written the ritual exactly as Atisha has composed.
Teacher. The Joseph Song Hajane. Jubu Chungi goes to sheep, Hajana, Dayan, Lovenji Joba, Shao, Sondoa.
So then here now, stating the precepts of refuge, right? It says the master should give here the precepts already explained in the context of the teachings for the person of small capacities.
Tanga so mesi de katule de shi jag mari gan roza jeda chanju la jala gapil la jada dubil la jasa de tar so gro te mesi ga so go je shu go do jeda wo de de je tan yo jo ba sha wo ji ta cho sa ba ne so do ta ga so sha chu sen ra ji le che ba la ya sha chu sen ge da ba le ba la ti ji na ga so ten de ro 사제들의 신까지 떠와야나 사제 대의관계 참말로 소바도 딱그 도여나 가려나 빠짜만 장제세네 니 되고는 이제 사배다게 제로 대단하게 상추생이 너무 많이 변해들라 양라 된바다 메델라 소바 피네니 소사지 사샤와이나 니 너무 거지 대제비거라 니 비타와여서와.
So here now which has mentioned that at this point normally we should go through the explanation of the advice of what is to be done and what shouldn't be done, having taken refuge in Chijos. However, it's going to be a long, so we're not going to go through this detail right now. So rather, we will go through this, the collection of mirrors, amazing the collection of mirrors. So here now, just as when we are planning to plant seeds in a field, we just need to clean up the field in the beginning, right? We need to make sure the field is suitable enough to plant the seed, by moving out all those rocks and thorns and whatever that are the unwanted things that are on the ground that need to be cleaned up and properly, cultivated, and then plant the seeds, where you can get a better harvest as a result. Similarly, when we were prior to receiving the Bodhisattva's precepts, first of all, we need to lay the foundation upon which you can build this merits of the Bodhisattva's vow by, engaging in the practice of seven limb practices and making in mandala offerings.
Yeah. Tamaza kecha katu tane gaso pe le because pa mari ma to dikhato lenge ya na ne yang de pa do la gaso sanshe da shenju la so ba yang la de ba chen de ne mende de phi ne ta je na yang ho be ma chen ne chen de che de ye di de che pe sa no de che de ma do gaso ngo se ne go so na ma ko ta che che de.
So if we are not at this point, we are not taking a bodhisattva's vow as we have mentioned earlier. We're just going through the explanation. So if we are actually taking receiving Bodhisattva's precepts, then there is an involvement of reciting the Samadha prayers, or of the seven limb, the verses of seven limbs, in accordance with either with the King of Prayers or the Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life.
That's what's up on there. So, Senchi be chuki go deyang, shatan chopa so, sheba shejin, drebale, yanla din batang, sanjeda shanchu, samba, quanta tati, shenjena yila, tremba shene, sheba ta shate, lama nala chopa ne, chopa kami dusa sheba shao, dusang sheba shao, yanla din batne, zanshe da shenju ke jung, Garo ke shao, Saint Jean-Baptiste Landrone, Chambi 50 ans, Saint Dongewala, Tede, Saint Jeba Somba, Sombe Kasheba, Shambata, Jinji Mina, said Dabo, Sondo, Mojenes.
So now here's amazing the collection of merits. With respect to the ritual of generating the spirit of enlightenment, Atisha explains that at this point, also you make obeisance, offering and so forth, following the commentary on the difficult points of the Lamb for the path to enlightenment, where it says that you should perform the 7 limb branches of the worship, 7 limb branches of worship, bringing to mind all the Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and your former and present teachers. Understand that making offerings to the Gurus should be done at the time you make the earlier offerings as well. Practice the seven branches of worship by following either text of the prayer of Samantabhadra, or which is the king of prayers, Samantabhadra Pranidhana, or engaging in the Bodhisattva deeds.
Dere. Tate gasu shachu sango sute damba jende jete chegu yasona, ene yala de shason cheje yala de bate chanson sana mende de pi, ene made jene ene sanje ye nije ta, ene gaje nije de shamba ye lo de kanla kansa ngo de jibe kala ene lobe ye ma jende jene ngo jene ngo zu yu do sen jamba sen de o chi chu de.
Oda ye dan de loya test che sha rum che konda. Loya chi che jang ye.
De ta de chung re sen jamba.
Yeah, to read the earlier one paragraph, and I'm missing one paragraph. I didn't read them for one paragraph, so let's read right now. Purifying your attitude, it says, since in Lamb for the path to enlightenment, Atisha says that you should first feel love in your heart and then generate the spirit of enlightenment upon seeing suffering living beings, vividly bringing to mind that object and the subject aspect for love and compassion as explained previously. So now we are on the particular chapter or the paragraphs where we're actually receiving the actual ritual. We're participating in the actual ritual of receiving Bodhisattva's vow.
Ade chozu teni yabo chenge so na ni shangchu yu sema na shangchu senge damba lembe kala ni nangye ye lame kare chego gudu ni shenge ye kare chego du thati kare chego du chanson je hen den ro ata.
So you'll find full explanations of the precept, what preceptors, what is requirements for the preceptor, that preceptors need to be need to be gathered, and preceptors need to be, accomplished. So similarly, how we should be ready ourselves to make ourselves as a suitable vessel to receive the Bodhisattva's vow. So this will be explained in the next chapters or the next paragraphs. 10 minutes break. So we will go through the actual rituals. So this Sumuchi said he will be reading through the texts.
Ngoji chokane sondo lobe jen dedo pemo yembe lama sala zuba zuhu ronye dolas temo jane senjeba shawo deyan langjale doba meba tanja shanchu sene jeba sha shedang sa choka lejang shanchu nimbi pado she sombe jende de zobe sanje toba shawo nyang de senjeba za minje senjeba za minje sende jeba la mine shanchu mato jeba de medon nyang de tanja wa yinbe ye samba choka la dene jeba shawo sondo.
So let's read through the actual rituals. In front of the master, you should either kneel with your right knee on the ground or the squat down on the balls of your feet. And after you join your hands, respectfully generate the spirit of enlightenment. In reference to this, the lamp for the path to enlightenment says, develop the spirit of enlightenment. That is an irreversible commitment. And the ritual procedure for the spirit of enlightenment and the Bodhisattva's vow says that until I reach the heart of enlightenment, therefore, it is not that you generate the spirit of enlightenment, thinking only I will attain the Buddhahood for others' sake. Rather, you focus on the such thought and make the commitment. I will not part from the determination to attain the Buddhahood for the sake of all beings until I reach enlightenment. So generate the attitude with these two aspects, independence on the rituals. So here, as most of us are familiar with, receiving Bodhisattva's vow. When we receive the Bodhisattva's vow from His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he would ask us to kneel down, right? We always kneel, kneel right knee on the ground and folding hands, and there's a requirement of physical gestures. So here, when we are receiving the Bodhisattva's vow, the precepts of the aspirational Bodhisattva's vow, or the precepts of the aspirational Bodhisattva, or the precepts of the engaging Bodhisattvas. So there are of two. So out of these two, the latter one, the precepts of engaging Bodhisattva's vow, precepts of engaging Bodhisattvas, need to be taken on the basis of strong commitment, and also to analyze oneself, whether it is appropriate, one is suitable to take these precepts, which is develop the spirit of enlightenment. That is an irreversible commitment.
Sanje tanje je tando sanje su jowa xiao nyamba san choke chena ne sanje je laja la loba miniba tanje la xewe choko bensen la deta ni ronge ju sen choka lemba la laja ye maloba la namba tanje do meron ye sha meron ye ludu da tome ne jiba la dambi choka mambo la sha ronwa da meron ye cheba ndoba ne kwa macha ba chenbo wo sondo a deba de chilor cheta toba.
So here it says, do not generate this attitude in this way if you are incapable of learning the precepts of the aspirational spirit of enlightenment. Says, right? So if one were to generate through the ritual, just the thought that I will become a Buddha for the sake of all living beings, then it would be proper to give the ritual to anyone, whether capable or incapable of learning the precepts of the aspirational spirit of enlightenment. In the case of the aspirational spirits, these two ways of generating the spirit for those capable of learning the precepts and with the commitment And for those incapable for learning the precepts and without the commitment are suitable. But when it comes to the adopting the engaged spirit of enlightenment through the ritual, it is completely wrong to give it to those fully incapable of learning the precepts.
야, 그래서 이 바탕 가서 시가 뺏게 좀 정으로 가디는 상주세 나바송도 상주 선제 탕제 이도도 상제서 타바 샤오게 제가 인세바 장제 아니 면서 조가 좀하라 가서 로자라게 로고 인세나 탕제 샤게 게면도 된저기 탕제의 자자는 말로나 가서 탕제 렌사도 수지 저와서도 저 빠네자 아니 타예비 선제 탕제 이 당연히 제가 인세데 마 선제 용수 줘봐데 예 제가 인세데 선제 탕제 방법자 요디 냐카치 뭐 수지로 레가데 제마도나 켈레나.
So it is, whether it is capable or incapable, one should understand very clearly, you know. So therefore it says, if you really think and or convince yourself that you are capable of receiving the later precepts, or the precepts, or the precepts of engaged spirit of enlightenment, or mind of enlightenment, or the engaged body, engaged spirit of awakening mind. So for that, we have to have a very strong determinations and analysis whether or not one is capable or not. However, the former one is the precepts of the aspirational spirit of enlightenment. One can take this, it's as mere aspirational, because I aspire to attain state of enlightenment for the sake of all of the sentient beings. For this, I take the precepts, Bodhisattva's precepts, by participating oneself in the ritual processes.
당자대 샤데 말로나 상제데 선진이가 흘러바로와 문에 전에 델레 흘러쳐 지지 여마로와 야 저기 흘러바래 마 가지 진지 미유집이 선지 창제 흘러샤와이나 델레 신기 흘러야스기면도와 전슈지 흘러.
If you are really take the bodhicattas, the second precepts, but the precepts of the engaged spirit of enlightenment, if we take this without going through a proper analysis of oneself, whether one is capable or incapable, and if you take these precepts and unable to preserve, unable to uphold the bodhisattva's power, or uphold the precepts, then if it can undergo degenerations, then we are literally, deceiving, Buddhas and bodhisattvas and all other sentient beings, because we are receiving the bodhisattva's vow by setting all Buddhas and bodhisattvas as our witness, by saying that I am capable, I can do it. So we are kind of deceiving them. And then we are taking this for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And at the same time, you're also deceiving other sentient beings by taking this. So therefore, there's a danger if you are unable to, if you think that if you think that you are not capable of taking it, then you should think twice before you receive.
So
then here we will see in later when we go through the reading of the text that there are some practitioners or the individual has said that it is okay to take both the vows on the aspirational bodhisattva's vow and engaging bodhisattva's vow. Both of them it is okay, even though that you are unable to preserve, you are unable to uphold or observe the bodhisattva vow. It should be okay, but this is completely wrong, however.
Le tomboy chushe de judan zimbi choke yang zimba shebe mari shene loja jodan cheba de zadon ye me sheba jeta shayi cheba maten ba ne de mayin ba chenbo la jowa yin no sondo.
So here now, therefore, some people have a great misunderstanding when they assert the distinction that in the lineage of the Nagarjuna, it is proper to give the Bodhisattva's vow in the many ritual, whereas in the lineage of the Asanga, it is inappropriate to do so. Furthermore, furthermore, some say that when beginners practicing, they should repeatedly adopt the engaging spirit of enlightenment through its ritual. However, since this beginner do not know the precepts in general and the fundamental transgressions in particular, they cannot demonstrate the particular of what should then be done in putting them into a very harmful situation.
대체 다 된저기 주지 최초라고 제 당진적으로 제는 손샤에 되서기 아니 상추생기 담바던 계속 자동된 계속 있는 냐카 가르요미 때네 마시비 다래 손도.
So they are here now the way they propound, and when you look at the proponents of even the it is okay to take both the bodhisattva's vows, whether you are capable or incapable. It clearly demonstrates that such an individual has not really gone through the proper understanding, not having a proper understanding of the precepts, what is to be observed and what is to be abandoned, having received both the precepts of the bodhisattva.
조생이 담바데 가딜에는 디그레스는 지 용다 깨쳐도 셰데데 아니 사동 예만시베 다레 손도 아yen데레 다디도 어데 아 대표적 저기도 손도 녜단 조사
맞아
제 가서 고마저 템번네 첨보제 아니 세제라 담바 레장제 진발라 소베 하자라 허바 미니나 상추지 생장제 발랑 선나무 두바 손베 콘선제네 강파로도 신바나라 넘버 탕제도 소미니바 대장 제베체위 셔 터지 용수 신바 상추도 생제바 샤데 시에고리 동볼레 손베 진소제 하자라 멜로발라 생제 샤롱와다 담바 존도 미롱와 치세바 예노 손도.
So the previous paragraph, I think I overread. So we are beginning here. Yeah, there's lawyer that mounted it. Yeah. Break short what? Adi one bukomrem gide for the direction.
Oh, the Gorim Padolosa.
Kamala's first stages of the meditation, citing the advice to the King Sutra, Raja Vavataka Sutra says that if you cannot learn the precepts of generosity, etc., you achieve much merit in even a simple generation of the spirit of enlightenment.
되지. 되게 저기 단다 가르치고 그래서 아니 주당이 담바데 아니 지 상추 마토지 봐도 상추 셈이 제스 쇼발로 하고 있어. 다자자 마토 나야 아니 네 상추기 생제 봐데. 상제 초가들 내셔와이나 스나 하바도 폐거래 해서 지당
주동 소용 배르미지.
주당 아가서 조단 렌세데 상추기 생제네 아니 조비 상제 공부 마토 봐도 제스 쇼발로 토고 있어. 다자에 조단들에도 제 마토 나야 아니 상추 생기 초배도네 상추 생 제바장지 아니 선한 하바데 폐거를 son도.
Although that you may not be able to take the later precepts of engaging bodhisattvas, if you take a part in receiving the bodhisattva's vow in general to generate bodhicitta by participating oneself in the ritual processes, if one can take the bodhisattva's vow by means of participating oneself in the ritual, will enable one to accumulate tremendous amount of merits.
Gore yishan jesse shopala lo minipala shanchu ge senje yobata and ho nye and shanchu senge number zone at any chiba the civil son and son do.
So it's the first stages, the Kamalashis, the first stages of the middle meditation clearly, elucidates there's a distinction between the precepts to be observed by the aspiring, stage of bodhicitta and an engaging stage of bodhicitta.
다 가서 가르치고서는 평생 초게 zon하다 주당 렘바생이 이게 넘버데 셰 근데 평생 초게 zon하생이 때 애니 가서 샤추기 제세셔발 로투는 메토마 강가게 전용게 렌테체 뒤가라 가서 계속소게 토네 제세셔발 수제도 로투사레사나 이네 주당데 렌체 당가서 셰게 되이다.
So now here we need to make a distinction and to understand between the two precepts, right? One is Monsim Choge Songwa, the precept, of precept to the ritual of generating the spirit of enlightenment. That is the Monsim Choge Songwa. I'll repeat with the precept of the ritual for generating the spirit of enlightenment. That is the first precept. This can be received by anyone. Whereas the other, the precept of engaging bodhicitta, we need to convince ourselves, we need to see whether we are capable or not to be able to take these precepts. So you have to, it is important for us to make a distinction between the two precepts of the bodhisattva.
되지. 다 되게 단단한 소리 내고 제시 되지. 다 단지당에 양 진짜 저거 이게 초가 가서 초가 거지 된 것도 돼. 이게 다가랑 말로도 로이다. 야. 세조의 초가 내서 쇼준의 주변 상제다 상주 삼바 단계 달라 공수스 로변 공수스 다빈의 시제의 제외 저와 대단 저와제다 제다도 진비 랑신다 수준제 랑신다 공비 랑신치 게이자와 다게 제바다 제도 자와다 제발라 제스 예랑이 게이자와데 제다 혼제 대전시바 다점바 양도바 조비 상제 나다 사천벌로 로드슈비 상주 삼바 점보나제 라나메바 양도바 조비 상주도 투제바 제바 대전도 다민의 시제 장 뒤대내선데 지시 상주 정보라 치지 봐도 라나메바 양도바 조비 상주 쳔보라 세제바 제오 세제마 조와나 조와조 마조와나 조와조 우마 신바네 우유와 제오 용스 냥엘레 마데바나 용스 냥엘레 마데바나 냥엘레 데바 제오 셰테 레소 조바 샤오 소.
Reading through the text, even those who cannot completely learn the perfection should generate the spirit of enlightenment in order to be imbued with the method, because there is a great result. So it is very clear that while it is correct to give the ritual for generating the spirit of enlightenment to those who cannot learn the precepts of generosity, etc., it is incorrect to give them the bodhisattva's vow. The ritual for that, said the next, it is ritual for the adopting the spirit of enlightenment is as follows. Recite the following 3 times. All Buddhas and bodhisattvas who reside in the 10 directions, please listen to me. Oh Master, please listen to me. By means of my virtuous root in the nature of generosity, ethics, or meditation, which I say your name in here, and then in this and all other lives, cultivate it and enjoin others to cultivate, or to rejoice in the cultivation of, you say your name again here, and will generate the spirit of great, unexalted, perfect enlightenment from now until I reach the heart of enlightenment. Just as the earlier perfect Buddhas, who are arhats and tathagatas, and the great bodhisattvas who reside on the high level, generated the spirit of unexalted, perfect enlightenment. I will liberate all beings who are not liberated. I will free all living beings who are not freed. I will relieve those without relief, and will cause to reach nirvana those who have not reached it.
네. 실례서 줘봐 샤오 오송도. 전지 초가 단대니 라 로베지 제스 대고비 세카 마조야 고바 인노 송도.
So then here's, even though it is not made clear that you must repeat after the master in both this part and the refuge part, of rituals, you must do so.
So here it says that sometimes you will find in the particular ritual that doesn't clearly say that you should repeat the verse after the Guru while you are receiving the precepts. But then here it says, whether it mentioned clearly or not, it is important to repeat while you are receiving the Bodhisattva's vow. You should repeat the verse of the Bodhisattva's vow after the Guru. Oh, that's it. Then the Lobe you be Luin La Sondo. Lobe Manina, Jetta Shawane, and Senji Choka, Juenzeba Le. Deta Lobe Mejan, Dani Shanchu, the Senji Chokane, Dijesheba Shaja Tubadan, Shuji Dijesheba Tanchela. Tanji Yila Sande, Shatsevada, Chibi Chokala Soba Shene. Soa Dabatan, Robin Shipi, Tsi Pambi, Josun Roala, Sopi, Gorin Kumaje, the Shao, Shiesumbata, Shao, Jugi Chokane, Sondoa. So these instructions are the produced and the procedures to be followed when a master is when the master is present. With respect to how to proceed without a master, the great elders, the ritual procedures for the spirit of enlightenment and the Bodhisattva's vow says, although there is no master, there is a ritual for the developing the spirit of enlightenment oneself as follows. Imagining the Tathagatas, Shakyamuni, and the Tathagatas of the 10 directions. Make obeisance and the ritual offerings, etc. And then go through the process of going for refuge and so forth as before, eliminating the word, master, and supplication to the master. So it is my opinion, when you are first receiving the teachings, when you are first receiving the Bodhisattva's vow, it is necessary that you should receive the Bodhisattva's vow in the presence of the Guru, someone who possesses the Bodhisattva's vow, from whom you receive the Bodhisattva's vow. Once you have received the Bodhisattva's vow, then you can perform this ritual for receiving the Bodhisattva's vow in the presence of the object of refuge. So it has a great benefits. Receiving Bodhisattva's vow has a great benefit. So it is ideal for all of us, if possible, can receive this Bodhisattva's vows during the very special days, by reciting the verses. If you know how to recite the verse of consciousness, I take refuge in three joys. I confess all my negativities that is accumulated from the beginningless time, and I rejoice in the virtues of other beings, and I take heart to the enlightenment of I take heart to the enlightenment and so forth. If you know this, you can do that. If not, then you can do the regular refuge formula. You can recite that. I take refuge in Church until I'm enlightened, for the benefit of all sentient beings and so forth. It has a very great benefit. So if you can take this, this will really, enables one to accumulate merits, because His Holiness said that he always takes Bodhisattva's vows on the daily basis. Rangi Tuan, Rangi Tuan Jana, Shanju Senchego, Jenji Tuan, Shanju Senchego, saying it. See the Nibachimo Sela, you should take the Sundwa.
So now here, at this point, we can take only one example of a person or the individual who possesses this bodhicitta. Is His Holiness not other than His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Without a doubt, we can pinpoint His Holiness as a person who possesses this bodhicitta. So His Holiness always said that when he takes the bodhisattva's vow, particularly when he going through the reciting of the verse, there's a one particular verse. It says, which means in order to accomplish the purpose of all beings and oneself, may I take bodhisattva, may I generate bodhicitta for the benefit of all other sentient beings. So therefore, His Holiness always mentioned that whether you want to accomplish the purpose of oneself or to fulfill the wishes of all other sentient beings, working for the welfare of other sentient beings, bodhicitta is a principal factor, the real factor or the primary factor which enables us to accomplish the purpose of oneself and others.
When I turn Shanchu said the Tony to Loni, when I turn a sample of Kitu take those and John and Yango and Sumba is, and then Lord Jichi Jadula Lengi, Cheraton, Gogotonga, Medusa, and Soda. And I thought the Kangaba Cheto Satani, Carason Shana, Gichus get out of Medua.
So here His Holiness has mentioned that by means of practicing bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness, a really immense help in terms of transforming his mind. So he has expressed this towards us through his own experience. So therefore, His Holiness has mentioned very clearly by saying that I'm 86 years old. When I say this, there's no reason for me to just to lie or just to deceive. Just to say that there's a great benefits of practicing bodhicitta and wisdom realizing emptiness.
Tombani Jacola, shoot Chumboji, the new genus, Lord to Judges at Sondua, and the Shanchu Sangola, Ganjan and Yanu Chen, the Lord Matches and Russia Sondua. So
His Holiness has mentioned during his teaching by saying that it has been 60 years since he started practicing meditating on emptiness. Or then it has been 50 years since he started meditating on bodhicitta.
The drinking Yanu Chigita, Solomon Yanu told that Yanu Nala Taran Chung do send that Loni don't go Sanja don't go Luda that the pitching us to Dona Chabra. Tangaroso, you change mostly young Lama de Latani, you do. The Chanosu Taran Jada Sunday, Tandala to Tabu de Jiren do.
So it is actually, we are unable to move our mind, even though when someone who has gained such a great experience of practicing bodhicitta and practicing wisdom realizing emptiness, sharing whose experience with us, we are unable to, at the same time, we're unable to move our mind. So this is the person from whom we have a direct connection, from whom we receive a direct teachings of the Dharma, who is sharing his or his experience with us. Yet at the same time, we are unable to move ourselves. We are unable to move our mind. So if we think about the great beings in the past, such as Buddhas, Nagarjunas, Asangas, and so forth, it is just, our lineage gurus, but they remain mere, stories. It remains in the stories.
Yeah, that she is so busy. In the Masoki, the Drigger in touch with Samba, the Drigger in touch with Sachabo Denila, Chimuneji short Denila, Gasho Jetu agent, the G. Shu Gonski Joma knowledge. Tell it is local to show to the Chawayana. Comune Hale, but Dele Noble Mangela, Chipacha Jando in Sona. Cocajan Azote, Takanjan Diniba, that Tommy Tammy, Casa Tommy Tade Yomare, the Tammy Ta Gilla Droala, any. The rich lord in your nature, any Tatagi in Yantabi, Sanjay and Rani, and I take a kind of zone, any monetone in Nano, any tender Dewagi, any Sanchez Salado, Demato, Monem Medua. The Sutu Maso, so gay on the quad and Swanny, and Malanda Majo, and it is a son of the Maton in Halero.
So now it is through this, we can at least plant some imprints in our mind by following the advice of the great teachers such as His Holiness, following their practice of generating bodhicitta and meditating on emptiness. Even though we may not have an actual realization of those two, we should try our best to engage in those practices so that we can, by implanting those imprints within our mind stream or within our stream of being, will eventually, accumulate, and further accumulation of those imprints will then finally take us to the everlasting, that state of everlasting happiness. So here now, not only that ourselves, but also we'll be able to establish other beings to the everlasting state of everlasting happiness by means of one's own practice, right? So here, although that we talk about there's no beginning of our cyclic life, but there is an end of the cyclic life, right? There's an end. There's no beginning of cyclic life, of the life of cyclic existence, but there's an end of cyclic existence. So up until the ending of our life of our cyclic existence, if you're able to accumulate those imprints within us, and through the accumulation of those imprints of those practices, will then finally will take us to the state of everlasting happiness. So we should do this on a daily basis by praying and wishing and with a great enthusiasm. So now here, going through the text, it says, the conclusion of the ritual. The master tells the student the precepts of the aspirational spirit of enlightenment. So now here it is in the conclusion. Conclusion the ritual is now. It is a tradition of when one has received the bodhisattva's vow, or the aspirational bodhisattva's vow, the engaging bodhisattva's vow. Once you have received, then the preceptor will then explain what is to be observed, observation and abandonment.
Yeah, that is the Tara water tower, the Masalogida. Niba Shebala Tapa Casa Shanchuki sent a yonder on the Rangilla, Debala, Rangilla, Sombala, and Shanchu Senki Penla, and Shebitone, and Della Gabochan and Yadero, Mascala Mazona, Sociala del Gabocana, Sachamuch and Yagro.
So now, next chapter 6, maintaining the spirit of enlightenment, right? Once you have received the precepts, then it is important for one to maintain the spirit of enlightenment with delightfully, right? Just like when you have, when you buy something that things that you really like it, right? and something you think that is really precious and you really liked it. So you buy, having brought that particular object, you will keep this, and take very care of this, right? You will take care of that particular object with delightfully. Similarly, once you know the benefits of this bodhisattva, taking the bodhisattva's vow and receive the bodhisattva's vow, and you should maintain this spirit of enlightenment delightfully.
Nipa topa manyamba somba la laja shego mare laja sheba shago be de sheba shawo de la ni sondo.
So now maintaining and not weakening what you have attained, in other words, what you have received, the vows. You need to know the precepts. So I will explain them. I'll explain them. So this has two parts.
Somba singing the sense of Baralo Kogoro, and Sholo Jala Somba Kemari, Shanchuki sent the Tutrin Damba singing Moncho, sent you des and Chiroa. Into Soma said the sense of Kogodoa, Tijino, Matson, Nai Jama to John, Karichon Johnson, Lumishawache, Kati and Ale years on the double journey, the Sachem Yagodoa.
So here is a maintaining and not weakening what we have attained, it says. So in the part, it is more like protecting. In other words, if you translate literally in English from the Tibetan, but Sungwa is protecting. What is protecting? What is being protected here is we're protecting our mind. Not letting our mind wander everywhere, but rather letting our mind look inward and bringing those mind inwardly. That is what is meant by protecting our mind.
So
if you are willing to protect your quality of your mind, then it is important to protect our mind by relying upon the two, by two mental factors which enables us to protect our mind. These are the mindfulness and introspection. So two are here now training in the precepts that cause you not to weaken your precepts of enlightenment in this lifetime. And the second, the training in the precepts that cause you to not separate from your spirit of enlightenment in the future lifetime as well. Sorry.
The Senji Menobi Jolabala Jele Jeche. Senji la Toshu Pevi Shedo, Penjambala Loba. Senji Mu Pevi Shedo, Shindu de Madeleine to the Jebala Loba. Kanguton the Senji be Senji Lu Mepawala Loba. Sonata Yishiji So Sabala Lobo or some Tombone.
So now here, the training in the precepts that cause you not to weaken your spirit of enlightenment in your lifetime has 4 parts, right? So the training in the precepts to recall the benefits of the spirit of enlightenment in order to increase the strength of your enthusiasm for it. And second, the training in the precept to generate the spirit of enlightenment 6 times each day in order to increase actual spirit of enlightenment. Third, the training in the precept not to mentally abandon the living beings for whose sake you develop the spirit of enlightenment. Fourth, the training in the precept to accumulate the collections of the mirrored sublime wisdom. Sublime wisdom, sorry. Yeah.
抓的说那针对有比较六个嘛的，年把的做修的小，给全部这多啊。我说最近我说老个呀，不过等着怎么介绍的，假设么个假设朝鲜呢，刚来开没得个，我怎么了抓三点了，搞不有了，对个。这那个，生计的，现在了嘛，绝对没想法用完了，生计了搞不起，多的偏几个多。
So here, it is always good to have, this dosen, which is you should have a joyfulness of engaging in such practice, or in other words, delightfully engaging in these practices. If you are delighted in engaging in such practice, then this will produce enthusiasm, the joyful or the joyous perseverance, in other words. It will produce a joyous perseverance. With the joyous perseverance, you will able to complete these practices. You will able to gain a realization of whatever the practice that you are doing. Just like kids, when the kids are playing, they tirelessly play, they never get tired. You don't see them getting tired by playing all day, even though they are playing all day, but they are really enjoying in what they are doing. Similarly, that if we are enjoying in engaging in such a practice, this very joyful experience will produce an enthusiasm. The enthusiasm will give you a strength of engaging in practice without a break.
我做单单的告诉我的呢，现在生计每年比较了老把生意的，你得了，你生计了多少批把生意的，家嘛，这个零线的做什么的，你马上这个上的，第八路零线全部都，这么个钱呢，我做都个下手的。
So we will stop here with this today. The training in the precept to recall the benefits of the spirit of enlightenment in order to increase the strength of your enthusiasm for it.
当我说这结果的，他们没把那大把都俺来想出生意，当把联系，查见的门上呢拉下子。当我呢，我去狼人的那几了千年准备，你结把了单呢，你就不送去狼人人把了人接落呢，你我呢我想出生意，当把特别这边对手的那几了来下，这样我说叫我让不赢。当你当把的来呢，他也比生产堂阶段都做不上这些国防倒把下，你第一阶段你对那随便那么弄去，你行了那把当行了就把这小三呢，你想就生了主要的这边个呢，我们接打。
So let's do our dedications by dedicating all the merits towards one's own, state of enlightenment and that of all other sentient beings. That up until now that we haven't been realized how important it is for us to generate bodhicitta. And now for henceforth, I have, fully understood how important it is for us to generate the bodhicitta for the benefit of all other sentient beings. And by engaging in the practice of the three capacities, going through the practice of three capacities, the person of three capacities, sorry. And from now on, I will enthusiastically and joyfully and delightfully engage in the practice which enables me to generate bodhicitta, to gain the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. May all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions bless me to be able to do this.
yedang guru mende laga naya daya me dene rendo bele sonye Kada yamba ganshi sawa de lomi mari kedon jowa na nanje jaye ombo da juji teze tema sumbi tsero gyundo yang jambe yangju tsebe jizone tenbe rinpa kyunsan langju chu nyene zhubi jena nishe shu rangi jizin tobi langju ne shu zha zhe zhang wei tao ge jie zhuo yue yi zhi mi ba se xie ne jia yi dian ba yu ren zai jiu ji dian ba ren qian zhu ge ma jia ba qiao jiang niang ba qi bi shu de ne ni jie qin bi yi rao jiu ba yi边地对对是我是我说，世间家人民众真的来，来着相救郎就人别讲，他的那就一拉别的心，家人这把人都终究结，郎上主命定情主西经，给尽世界没当没命根。切罗更多家业刚把业，那当那当这我忙就急，刚才太把出了去学习，最近住了准把第一次，昨天那这大多出西经，这些将是属于教教节，就在那边过次绕点经。那个城的数据结果到，老张定比这边啥送去，这也面试大多研究节，刚着让人过于新方式，别当电话忙的教育呢。新人人我的人要作业，小别身体不多研究节。江边八月街道前八道，更多让步这样的人的，得到根据就是道路，也往得到当街绕多我推送西边叫我当街，我刚了就多我的。大人给予早晚的跟讲，容不学习绕多我的。
Thank you so
Oh
much.
yeah, good chat.
Thank you.